What is going on? I want to welcome you from half court for today, August 9th, 2023. I am one of your hosts, Sean Murphy, alongside the beautiful bastard from the mansion to the rough streets, Jeff Iafrady. Jeff, what happened to the mansion, man?
Hey, times are tough, man. I mean, times are tough. Pistons aren't playing basketball, so it's hard out here. I'm in the alleyway.
Can't pay
currently.
the bills when the Pistons
No.
aren't.
And you know what? Even with 17 games, I had that wonderful mansion. So we'll see where I'm at when the season starts. But yeah, currently we got the brick wall. That's what we're dealing with today.
Yeah, well, Jeff, I'm proud of you to be able to endure those difficult circumstances. But also joining us, the man, the myth, the legend, the Marquette Heat in his seat, getting ready to greet. It is Sergey. Hey, Troy, how's it going?
Going good, Sean. Looking forward to watching my guy Luka tomorrow play for Slovenia.
Yeah.
You know I'm a big Luka guy. Gotta represent. But we know that my heart, Sean, is with the Detroit Pistons. So
wasn't your birthday wasn't your birthday gifts like practically Luka themed?
Yeah. My wife got me a Luka shirt, a Luka card. Instead of happy birthday, it said Luka birthday, I guess, instead of happy. I don't really know where you get that, but hey, I love it. Anything with Luka, man.
Yeah,
that's awesome, man. That's awesome. Yeah, I mean, not just being able to see, Luka, but I mean, Team USA, as of recording, has their first scrimmage tonight against Puerto Rico. The World Cup is going to be starting really soon. I mean, guys, I'm not sure if you know a whole lot about this World Cup and like who all is going to be in it, but like this is going to be really fun. Like this is the first time going into a World Cup where the team I'm most excited to see is not Team USA.
Mm-hmm.
I'm personally because if you look at what they got building up north in Canada, I mean, you have potentially Jamal Murray, who's still undecided on whether or not he's going to play. You have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, who is alongside with Luka, the best player in the entire freaking tourney. You have potentially Andrew Wiggins in the Olympics as well. I mean, all around, guys, I think it's going to be a really good World Cup.
And when's the last time you've really been able to consistently say that? I feel like over the last handful of years, at least the last probably decade, that conversation about watching other teams besides USA basketball has been probably more relevant than it ever has.
Oh, absolutely.
So it's great to see. It's a global game. It always has.
2004 was the last time USA didn't do anything, and we were too young to remember that. But of course, that was Larry Brown coaching and Stephon Marbury clash. But I don't think there'll be any clashes on Team USA this year. But it's just how deep the world is getting. Right?
Yeah.
We talk about how deep the league is getting. Well, the world is getting just as deep. So,
yeah, and I mean, and it's crazy because you look at their previous performances in the FIBA World Cup. And, this is kind of a especially difficult circumstance for them with the fact that, literally next season is the Olympics. You generally get a 2-year gap in between the World Cup and the Olympics. But you look at overall, like this roster, like even though the USA, for all intents and purposes, they're not sending their best players. They are sending a lot of young talent. But at the same time, I think they still have a good chance to make some noise. Now, the last time we went to the World Cup, I think we got 7th or something like that. Like it was like we sent like a B team that time. And, I think if anything, what we're finding, like to what, to your point there, Jeff, like over the last 20 years in particular, the basketball talent around the world has just improved so much that, Troy, there's really not nearly as many blowouts as there used to be. It's no longer a lot that the USA is just going to roll over everybody, especially if they're not sending their best guy.
Right. It's kind of an A- squad, I think, this year. Like you said, there's definitely other talent. I mean, I know with Trae Young, a lot of NBA fans were upset about Trae, but I mean, if you look at this team, Bridges, Johnson, Jaren Jackson, Jalen Brunson, I mean, these are guys that can hoop. These are guys that we've been talking about the NBA season. Tyrese Halliburton, that'll be a good one to watch. So this roster, I'm not worried about, Sean.
Right.
It's certainly focused more on rising talent than anything else.
Yeah.
And I think that part of that too is, as much as the inner basketball fan in me, you want to see the best play. It's gotten more, at least like I said, over the last decade or two, more so, players opting out, not playing for Team USA. It's guys have their own, especially guys like Jamal who are coming off an NBA championship. You'd much rather say, hey, do I have enough pride to go play for Canada, or do I just want to celebrate, get ready for this next upcoming NBA season? Although, not as many superstars are playing for Team USA, they're always going to have a good team. Like even the team they have now, it's a ton of great players, but it'll never be, the Redeem team or anything like that.
Right.
At least I don't think, just with how it's moving and with, now the rise of global basketball with everybody else participating.
And again, the big one really is next summer in France, right?
Yeah.
Like, that's going to be the team that everyone's going to be looking to get on. So, right now, a lot of guys, if anything, are preparing and ramping themselves up to prepare to potentially play basketball through June. And then again, through August, you know what I mean? Like it is that is a daunting, commitment on your body, the amount of basketball that you're playing. So, definitely makes sense why, why we don't have like a ton of star power, but at the same time, as stacked as our roster, you can go like, man, our roster has a lot of talent. It's really good. That it's like at the same time, like of our top 10 best American players, is there one of them on our team? Maybe,
No.
maybe one or two, like Jaren Jackson Jr. has a chance to be one of them guys. He just won Defensive Player of the Year, right? You got to put him up there, but like at the same time, like even guys like even guys like Paulo Banchero, like all due respect to Paulo, he don't got a shot to make the roster next summer.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah, you're looking at guys like Jason Tatum.
Right. I was going to say Tatum was the big name I was thinking of.
Yep.
Absolutely.
Jason Tatum, Devin Booker, perhaps even LeBron James. He hasn't played for Team USA in over 10 years. Maybe he wants to do one last Olympics.
Another one that maybe is on that same category of, does he want to do one more? Kevin Durant.
Yeah. And Kevin Durant's like one of the greatest ever USA basketball players. So especially his last Olympics was freaking incredible. Oh my gosh. But anyway, guys, you know who was really the one that impressed at Team USA this weekend? It was none other than Cade Cunningham. Over the weekend, Team USA Select was brought in to face Team USA in training camp. In case people don't know, Team USA faces a team of, some of the other best players in America called Team USA Select. And essentially the premise of the team is they come in, they give Team USA competition, and they also replicate what the other teams are going to try to do in the World Cup. And so during these games, especially on day one, they had Cade playing the Luka role. And on day one, the USA Select team managed to handle Team USA in both of the public scrimmages that the media was privy to see. And even on the second day, when apparently Team USA came back and handled business, which is kind of how it goes, like even the famous story with the Dream Team of how they lost to, how they lost to the Select team one day, and then the next day they just ran them up and down the court. Well, apparently, even in those games, Cade was looking like a guy too. So the biggest consensus from reading articles, listening to reporting, the major questions that were being asked about Cade it went from going into the weekend being like, yeah, I wonder what Cade's gonna be able to do this year. Coming out of the weekend, everyone's been like, wait, why is Cade not on this team? Because they're all realizing so clearly, which again, I wonder who could have told you that Team USA was interested in him being on the team. Oh yeah, I said that 2 months ago. But I mean, guys, we see why.
Yeah, the man was a surgeon out there. We kind of talked about it earlier. I mean, it's a whole nother issue if you're preparing for Luka and Cade slicing your defense, because Luka's a better player right now, but it actually speaks more on Cade. I think he answered a lot of questions that I don't think we had, but people I think forget that Cade, for whatever reason, plays in Detroit and plays basketball. For the last year, he's been out, and now he comes back, plays against guys that are up and coming, like legit NBA players. And that's why the narrative, when Cade was a rookie, and it was always, well, he's on a team that won 16 games. He's on a team that won 20 games. Like Cade's play style, you put him with anybody, anybody. Now, the talent around him matters, but Cade can play with anybody. His game, the way he can dictate pace, he reminds me, again, the way he plays. That's why with Monty, I'm excited with him and Ivy. It's like a CP3 Devin Booker backcourt because you have a guy like Cade who dictates the pace, like teams. Yep. And that's why the Luka Doncic comparison always gets brought up because Luka does that at an incredible high level. But Cade also, I think for people, he hasn't had a ton of NBA experience yet. Like that's the crazy part. He missed 15 games his rookie year, and he missed basically in his entire sophomore year. So think about that. For how good he looks to not have as much experience as many of these guys, I think that speaks to what Cade is. And people are reminded if they didn't know already. That's for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, Troy, we've seen Cade do these things on an NBA court. We've seen the samples of him being able to do this on a night-to-night basis. But something about the fact that he was able to go and do that, not only against the quality of talent that he did, but also the fact that he did that after not stepping on a court in a competitive setting since November.
Mm-hmm.
And to come out as the guy they're talking about that weekend, which again, he was not the only number one pick that was on the court. Paolo Banchero was there. Anthony Edwards was there. And even though at the end of the weekend, they voted Team USA, there was a vote of who was the most impressive player out of Team USA this weekend. And although Jaren Jackson Jr. got the most votes, Cade was the only member of Team USA Select to get a vote. And on top of that, the whole consensus from media, literally since day one of their practice, is that Cade's on the wrong team.
Yeah. That shows you a lot, Sean. And we were joking earlier before we went live, and that is that if the kid was doing this against Drew League competition, we'd be maybe happy. We get to see some basketball. We see our guy doing well, but it's different when it's going against NBA talent, right? I mean, not NBA all-star talent. Guys like Anthony Edwards, guys like Tyrese Halliburton, guys like Jalen Brunson, and putting up those types of numbers. Even if it's not a full, 48-minute stat line performance, it's still, if you watch the highlights, he's able to get to the rim easily, make his free throws. That's an underrated part of the game too. But just facilitate the basketball too, I thought was really impressive. So yeah, I mean, I'm just excited for the season even more now, knowing that he's not going to back down from tough competition, because we know every single night, all 29 teams outside of the Pistons have a star player. To some degree. And the fact that Cade can hold with them, hang with them, score against them is certainly an exciting thing as Pistons fans.
Well, you look at too, look at what happens when Cade gets talent around him, and he hasn't really had that opportunity yet. I know Ivy, we like a lot of young talent, but imagine the more, I guess, Jaden grows, Jalen Duren grows, these guys develop into what we think they could be. Cade becomes much more dangerous because Cade, regardless if your team sucks or not, Cade's going to give you his 25, 6, and 6. Now imagine if you have others alongside him. If he's dissecting Team USA guys, imagine what he's going to do to the Charlotte Hornets on a Tuesday night. The dudes, this shows us really, I guess, a little bit of a preview of what to expect this season. That's why when you see things like Cade, one of the favorites for most improved player, hey, dude, got you 26 and 6 on one leg. I can't imagine what he's going to do healthy. And his shot looked great. The shot looked great too. He checked all those boxes for me.
Well,
I think he's already third for most improved player. I think Bridges is first, Tyrese Maxey second, but Cade, our guy, third. So
sprinkle a little money on there, man.
That's right.
That'd be if I'm a betting man, that is a pretty interesting odds list to look at there. But I mean, the thing that gets you excited as a Pistons fan is it's not like doing this with Jalen Green or with Chet Holmgren even was what was getting him wide open or was getting him all the looks he was getting. You know who was the guy that it was his dynamic duo and he was clicking with all throughout Team USA Select in these scrimmages? Jalen Duren. I mean, we talked about it. I think we might have talked about it last pod, but I know we talked about it on Table Talk last week. We talked about, man, Jalen Duren came in and pressed, did all of these things, and he didn't even get to run like more than 5 pick and rolls with Cade. They hardly got to play together last season. Mm-hmm. So now imagine, what Cade was able to do with a competent lob threat, with Marvin Bagley at the end of his rookie season. Can you imagine what Cade can do with a full season with him and Jalen Duren?
No, it's crazy to think about too, because that's the reason you take this man number 1 overall, and you would take him every time in a redraft, because not only is he the leader he is, that he has the skill set he has, but he makes other players better. He does that no matter what talent's around him. If he has all-stars around him, great. They'll be even better. Like that's the type of game he has. And for him and Duren to have that connection already established, man, it gets me excited, because that's one thing this team just missed last year. They missed what do they call him? The connector. They missed Cade, the guy that, is really the center of this entire thing. So again, can't wait. I mean, Cade, you talk about his impact this year. Yes, Cade's going to put up numbers, but what does it mean for Duren? A lot. I mean, guys like Duren, Isaiah Stewart, Ivy, I mean, he affects more than just what he brings on the court. He affects everybody in a great way. That's why you take him number 1.
Yeah. I mean, Troy, we talk about, all the time, how Cade's, he's the straw that stirs the drink. He's the thing that gets going. We talked, last time about what type of impact Team USA can have, especially if you have a good performance. Now that we know that these guys essentially just came in and took over the gym the days that they were here, that only sets them up for success going into the season. It's not a guarantee, but you know what? It builds up some confidence when you can go out there and dominate against all NBA level talent. I mean, the fact that Jalen Duren and Cade Cunningham are the 2 names that people are talking about coming out of this weekend from Team USA Select, and those guys play together. I mean, like you gotta be pretty freaking excited about that. You just have to.
Definitely. And I know he wasn't a part of that mix, this past week, but if you throw Ivy too, I mean, that's another name that, connecting with lob threats with Duren, but also just them playing on the wing together and driving to the hoop will be great. But I think too, it's not just this season, a Jalen Duren sophomore season I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to even the year after that. Jalen Duren's 3rd season, which would be Cade's 4th season. Jalen Duren's 4th season, Cade's 5th season, right?
Yeah. I mean,
as we see time progress, how much they're going to have even a more impactful connection. And I just feel like those 3 guys, Duren, Ivy, and Cade, are such a part of our future. I mean, they are our core, but like I just feel like this is going to be the core that sets us up for championship contender, not this season, probably not even next season, but maybe even the season after that, and so on and so forth.
Am I ridiculous for thinking that he could potentially be the best big in the league by the time he's 25?
No, and that's what's so exciting, because we see that
he's not even 20 yet. Think about that runway. Like, think about what Jalen Duren at 25 looks like.
We see the one guy that's him being compared to over and over again. That's Bam. But I feel like Duren's skill set is even more than Bam. I feel like with a guy like Cade, I feel like that's something that Bam doesn't have. I mean, he had Jimmy Butler, but that point guard lob connection, right? I feel like, absolutely, he can be one of the best bigs in the league in a few years.
Well, part of that too is Jalen Duren just figuring out the potential he has. Like, I feel like as physically imposing as that man is and what the upside he has, with him slowly figuring out how talented he is and how much better he can get, that's what's scary about Jalen Duren. Like you saw him in a couple of those USA clips that came out of him just being the physically imposing figure he is, and that's what he should be. Like Jalen, you talk about could he be the best center or the best big by the age of 25? What about one of the most dominant players physically in the league? Which I think with the skill set he has, the jumper looks nice. We'll see it as it more, as time goes on, it'd be showcased more. But Duren, talk about upside. You can't put a ceiling, especially on a guy that works as hard as he does. You can't really put a ceiling on that.
Yeah, you really can't. And I mean, Troy Weaver said it himself. He's the only player on the team that he is not going to put a ceiling on. And, when you look at the runway that he has, I think the thing that's really luxurious for the Pistons is that, especially over like his first few seasons, like you can really like nurture him along and develop his game. And at the same time, just right now, just keep it simple and do the things that Jalen Duren does well. Set screens, crash the boards, get putback opportunities, catch lobs. And then over the next 2 years, you can see if his jump shot develops. You could see if he could start handling the ball more. He already has, really good vision for a big as well. There's just so many things he's working with. And the fact that, he's going to have, Cade to work with. I mean, that's exactly what you need when you're a big like that. You need a reliable guard, a reliable duo in that pick and roll game. And, we just saw it with Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic and how dangerous that can be. I think this has another element to it. I think this can be just as dangerous as that pick and roll combination. And that's one of the better pick and roll combos in NBA history.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, man, a lot to love. Now, another thing that this kind of sparks, or, I was listening to the Hoop Collective because they were talking quite a bit about the Pistons and Cade because of, his great play at Team USA Select. And, one of the biggest things was just, how weird their roster looks, the roster construction. And it kind of led me to this interesting thought I had before the pod. And I wanted to ask you guys. So there's currently, like on every NBA roster, there's about 15 players. Of the 15 that are currently on the Pistons right now, how many do you think will be on the roster from the end of the season? Do you think it's fair to say that as many as 5 to 6 players could be moved during the course of this year?
Yeah, my number was 9, so that would be 6 players moved.
I would. Well, I guess we'll start with who we think to kind of get a rough number. So I think Killian, we expect him eventually to be moved. Bagley, I would put in that conversation. I think Bogey, especially at the trade deadline, depending how desperate other teams get. And then even going further than that,
even Joe Harris has a tradable,
tradable
expiring deal. Bring shooting to it, to a team if need be.
I would hope that Monty would be a guy they'd want to extend, but we'll see how he plays. But still, that's 4, so we're already 2 away from 6. So I think 6 isn't. I mean, who's the other 2? You think?
I mean, at that point, James Wiseman is definitely in that conversation.
Yep, he could
at
be.
All times of a player who could potentially be traded. I think if Isaiah Livers comes out and can't stay healthy again, I think that's a guy that you might potentially, look at that packaging with something. I mean, the thing is too, is they're going to start making decisions on what this roster, looks like going forward. And I think especially when they start the year and they in 10, 15, 20 games, they see Cade's a guy. They see Asar is ready to play in the starting lineup. I think those are going to be things that could push the Pistons to finally make some moves and make some decisions on what this roster really is.
That was supposed to be last year, technically, the whole figuring out what you have, but Cade going down kind of delays that process a little bit. You haven't been able to see everybody play together healthy, and the Pistons last year, I mean, we knew they were tanking, so I guess the stat of, they're the most injured players all year, a little misconstrued because of the tanking.
But you definitely still last year saw guys like Hami and Corey Joseph as far as what they're made out of, right? So it wasn't a total loss, right?
Yeah. I mean, you take it with what you want, but this year, absolutely, it gets moved to this year, figuring out what you have. I think more importantly, though, the expectations stay the same, right? Play in, you want them to contend, but still it doesn't absolve the fact that guys will be moved. That's still a possibility. You expect it. You expect some sort of trade to go down, whether at the trade deadline or next offseason, or hell, maybe before the season.
Right.
Like Troy Weaver. Damn.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I mean, it's not a secret that, even in the pod, they even confirmed, they were trying to trade Killian this summer. And I mean, that's not really much of a surprise. You look at and again, you look at everything that Cade was and Duran were able to do at Team USA Select. And for me, I think we can all officially stop having the conversation of whether or not Cade will be good to go. I think we can all but stop having the question of whether or not Cade's a guy. I think it's just a matter of how quickly can he get it going and how and to what extent. Because, I think when you see the type of player he is, the body of work he puts in, but also his overall skill set, everything he provides, there's no reason to me why I don't think he could contend for an all-star spot this season. There's no reason to me why by the end of this season we could be having a conversation about him being the second or third best guard in the East.
No, I think that's fair. I mean, look at LaMelo Ball. LaMelo Ball was an injury replacement. He made the All-Star team. And what did he average? Like 26 and 6 or something like that? 21,
Yeah.
6,
Right.
And that was a team that won, what, like 30 games? So to say Cade could be an All-Star isn't crazy. I mean, he gave you 26 and 6 on one leg. Like, if he gives you 23, let's just add 3 points just to be safe. It could be more, but 23, 7 and 7, those are all-star numbers. Now, tell me what the Pistons record is if it's 30-ish wins.
A guy last year, Tyrese Halliburton, similar numbers, right?
Perfect.
All-star. So
I guess it just depends how I guess other guys their seasons shape up, but numbers-wise, Cade is an all-star. He will be.
Yeah, without a doubt. And I mean, I think obviously it can get a little weird when you're looking at like the roster, from up down, in the sense of, you're not trying to trade each and every single guy. There are certainly questions about like how much they can space the floor, and how much, like what their inherent ceiling is going to be this season. But I think guys like Asar, especially the physicality, the intensity he can bring on the defensive end, I think that's going to help a lot. And I think I think people are underestimating the amount of shooting we already have on the roster, especially, with, I'd imagine they're making the bet that Isaiah Stewart is going to be another guy spacing the floor for them too. And I mean, again, just all the pieces that are starting to come together. I think, guys, there's a lot of reason for Pistons fans to be excited come October, come November, when this team actually starts playing games.
Yeah. By the way, the shooting thing, like, I know people at the draft, and even, listen, for me, that was something we looked for. But after the draft, that isn't a conversation, to be honest with you. Maybe it's a concern. You want to see Cade and what he looks like. Even though Cade, though, 40% three-point shooter in college, and now the shot looks good. So you're assuming he'll be suitable. Ivy looked better. I mean, look at guys that are knockdown shooters. Joe Harris, Monte Morris, Bogey, all guys that are about 40% three-point shooters. So those are 3 guys that could be in your rotation. So the whole shooting thing, I get it, but it shouldn't be a concern, especially if you have guys that are capable of shooting close to, if not 40%. You should be all right. I'm more worried defensively. Like that's what I'm more concerned about. And Asar fixes that problem, at least to some extent, on the perimeter.
Guys, I wanna dive into something that isn't quite basketball, but is basketball. I want to preface this with, this isn't a political pod. However, this is a little bit of too weird of a thing, and kind of hits a little too close to home for me personally to not at least bring up and mention. In case you did not see, last week, the Orlando Magic made a donation to Ron DeSantis's presidential campaign. Not the owners, the DeVos family, which, again, from my area, very much like, they very, very powerful, prominent people. Betsy DeVos was freaking in Trump's cabinet, for crying out loud. They made a political contribution in the name of their professional sports club. Now like you could granted, I don't think I would care quite as much as if it was almost any other politician. And again, like, this isn't like a political podcast, but someone who's ultimately homophobic, someone who's ultimately like transphobic, someone who's like, said a lot of, racist and sexist things and doesn't have the greatest track record on the face of the planet. I don't know how I feel personally about a team taking a political stance. I personally think that basketball is a game for everybody and should be a game for everybody. And I personally think your political affiliations, unless, like, again, we're talking about human rights or, like equality for all people, like, I think that's something that should probably be left at the door. But like, again, I mean, to me, if I'm an Orlando Magic fan, I feel a little weird about my team. Like just why? It most likely it's tax related. Most likely it's something financial that benefits the DeVosses. But like, if I'm a Magic fan, like how would you feel if your team just weirdly came out and was like, oh yeah, this is the political candidate we support? Like, what?
Especially if you have a African-American general manager, you have an African-American head coach, you have a 60-70% African-American roster. Like, And again, I'm not political or anything, but
Right.
We do know who Robert DeSantis is. We do read the headlines. I at least do have an idea what kind of human being this man is.
Yeah.
So of course, if you're a Magic fan, like, yeah, it's embarrassing, but this is the unfortunate part. And it feels like the Magic too. It's a little interesting because you got like guys like Jonathan Isaac on the roster who is just doing all kinds of things as of late. I mean, he's doing his own thing. And then you got the Magic involved now with this conversation. It's just not great headlines for the Orlando Magic. Not great headlines.
I mean,
I would probably say all political candidates, your team endorsing, probably a no-no.
No.
The owners can do whatever they want, but the team itself.
Because once you hear it all the time, when you mention politics, you lose 50% of your audience. So for fans, you bring politics into this, the Magic, you're already dividing 50% of your fan base. Like, it's just it's idiotic. You just don't do it.
And we see that on both sides of the aisles, as far as if teams and other times doing likewise similar to either party, the other party loses interest, right?
Right. That's how it is.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, like I could understand, if they're saying, oh, well, this is our governor, we want to support, like the governor of Florida. Like I could see maybe that PR line, but again, you talk about taking such a definitive stance. And I think if anything, I'm interested to see if this has any long-term implications, because you look at, players especially are becoming more and more politically active than ever. I mean, Jaylen Brown said that like part of his motivation and the things that he wants to do with the money that he's going to be getting from his contract is helping bring Black Wall Street to Boston, right? Like players are more politically involved than ever. If I'm Paolo Banchero and I'm on there and I'm about to have a rookie extension in a couple years, I'm not saying this would make me not want to be there, but I'm kind of like, what? Why? It just makes it feel weird.
I don't even think you're crazy, Sean, to say like if you were Paulo, you wouldn't want to be there, because at the end of the day, what you wear on your chest, the jersey you represent, the organization you play for, like they are an extension of you. Although you don't share the same opinion, when they see Paulo, they think of the Magic. When they think of the Magic, they think of these things. Like he gets painted without even him trying to explain himself. So it's unfair. If I'm Paulo, of course I'm thinking about that. Not just like, oh, this is awkward. Like, no, I'm thinking like, damn, if this continues, I think I'd much rather go play in a different market. Like, and I don't think that's crazy. I think that's fair. So that's on the organization not to F up like that. And they, it is what it is.
And again, if you want to go and bring guys in free agency, or even bring guys in via trade, you're going to be like, all right, let's look up the Magic. Let's see what they're into. This is going to be like one of the first things they see when they Google the Magic now. I've always had interesting thoughts on, to me, the DeVos family has always been a particularly interesting owner in the NBA, which, I mean, the reason why is, pretty dang apparent. I'm from Grand Rapids. They're from Grand Rapids. Therefore, I'm pretty interested at all times in what they're doing in the NBA world. They definitely get a fair share of criticism for a lot of the things that they do within the Michigan area. I know, of course, they also make a lot of donations. They are also a very generous family, but at the same time, this was just a weird look.
Mm-hmm.
And, going forward, I hope this doesn't set a precedent for teams to do the same. I hope going forward that, the league can try to stay out of politics as much as possible. I mean, we've seen when the interest is wavered the most has been when politics has been involved in the sport. And I think some of it is unavoidable, right? After the George Floyd incident, after a lot of the police brutality incidents, being in the bubble during COVID, I think that's a situation where getting political, there's not even a choice, right? That gets to human rights at a certain point. But you don't have to come out and endorse a candidate.
No, that's optional.
You could have made this same donation under your name and nobody would have batted an eye.
Mm-hmm.
But you did it under the Orlando Magic. Ugh. Just makes you feel weird, man.
Yeah. It's disappointing, but again, if the Magic players, for some whatever reason, I don't know of any Magic players that have spoken out or said anything yet, but if there's a situation where it comes the regular season and these conversations are still going and they choose to protest or do whatever they choose, I necessarily don't blame them either. Like, this is what happens when you open up this can of worms. You know what I mean? Like, I don't blame the players if they want to take a stand either, but this is why you don't get involved in politics under an NBA team or any organization, quite frankly, in sports. It never ends well. It never ends well. It just doesn't.
Yeah, 100%. And again, I know it's largely their money. They can do whatever they want with it. But kind of makes you question what they're doing with their resources a little bit as well. But I mean, that's kind of a whole other conversation. Again, I don't think it's an area where pro teams should be involved in. It's one thing if a company endorses a political candidate. It's one thing if Chick-fil-A, endorses a Republican. It's another thing if a team I root for, I go to the stadium, buy their jersey. They're like, oh yeah, by the way, vote this guy. What?
Yeah. I would listen, if you're going to endorse a political candidate, you do it yourself. You put your name on it.
It's best the owners do it.
Yeah, at this point, of course the ownership's involved, but they're hiding behind that Orlando Magic name. You come out and you make the donation personally from you. Yeah. So we know who to criticize, who to talk about. It is what it is.
Right, because again, if this was just a donation from the DeVos family, none of us would have been shocked. Troy, I mean, that would have been a pretty cut by numbers. Oh yeah, the sky's blue, grass is green. Of course.
Actually, a little surprising. I mean, she did work under the Trump administration. I would be a little surprised she would endorse DeSantis instead of him, but whatever.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I mean, I guess From Half Pulpit is where we'll talk about more about that. But, for now, I mean, we can get back to basketball. Guys, there was another pretty big thing that happened in the NBA world over the last week. Anthony Davis signed an extension to stay with the Lakers. I thought it was interesting because you look at the deal that he signed. I mean, he's going to get to a point by the end of that contract where he's going to be making $60 million a year. It's a 3-year, $186 million contract, which I think it's a good deal for Anthony Davis. It kind of, it locks him in Los Angeles, semi long term, but not too long of term, where if something goes awry and you need to really make some decisions, then you can. But on the flip side, I mean, this gives the Lakers some form of stability, knowing that once LeBron's contract isn't up, it's not like they don't have something to build around going forward. They can at the very least say, we have a core of Anthony Davis and Austin Reeves. And that's not a bad building block. But at the same time, I mean, Anthony Davis, he just turned 30 this last year. We know how big men get after they turn 30, let alone a guy who literally couldn't stay healthy when he was 20.
Sean.
And that's where I'm at with it, Sean, is that this better work.
Yeah.
This better work with Anthony Davis being there long term. I don't know if I would have taken that gamble personally if I'm the GM. Because here's the thing. The injuries. Do you is it no matter the position, but especially a big, do you really want to have your core moving forward to be such an injury prone guy? And we know his talent. I'm not denying his talent, but
talent is never the issue with Anthony Davis, and it never will be.
I'm pessimistic.
No, I don't think you are. Listen, if anything, this is a couple different storylines to come at this from a couple different angles. One, it's the LeBron angle, because you assert, hey, like Sean already alluded to, not only are we, serious with LeBron, like, hey, we're going to get you a co-mate for the rest of your career, but even after that, you got a little bit of, you got 2 or 3 years, depending on how long LeBron plays with Anthony Davis. But again, you're getting him at 60 million, roughly, almost like 50-ish million. By the age he's like 33. So think about that. Jaylen Brown just signed an extension And he'll, by the time Jaylen Brown's done, his deal is done, he'll be 32, and he's getting paid the same amount. Now, would you guys rather have Jaylen Brown or Anthony Davis at this moment in time?
I mean, Jaylen Brown, because they know he's going to be on the court.
There you go. That's the biggest thing. Like you said, it's not about talent, Anthony Davis. It's about staying on the court. And honestly, for the Lakers, they have to do this. They don't have draft picks. LA, they can get guys to come there, but you sign Anthony Davis for that reason. It's a star-driven city. It's a star-driven team. At least you got a guy, a big name in Anthony Davis. But besides that, if you're talking the future for the Lakers, yeah, this one, I don't know if this one's it. I don't know.
You want to build around guys who can stay on the court. That's the point.
Since coming to LA, he's only played one 60-game season, and that was 2019-20. And that was when it shut down for the bubble as well. So you kind of wonder if the playoffs kind of kept going. You kind of wonder if Anthony Davis would have gotten injured in a regular setting. But nonetheless, he was healthy for the bubble. But since 2017, 2018, he has had two 60-game seasons. Of the past 6 seasons, he's played 60 games twice.
Wow.
2020, 2021, he played 36. 2021, 2022, he played 40. Last year, he played 56. If you're going to be paying Anthony Davis that type of money, which again, he was going to command, his talent was going to command a max contract. It makes sense. And if you are the Lakers, I think they are in a position of desperation because I think, especially looking at how many assets they gave up to go get Anthony Davis and put this team together. I think the other thing you have to look at is the fact that, they were so bad for so long when they lost Kobe that it was a disastrous era for Lakers basketball. And I think they know that they can't have that again when LeBron leaves, right? But on the flip side, we've talked all the entire time, the entire intention of getting Anthony Davis was that by the end of LeBron's time in Los Angeles, he could kind of be the secondary scorer. This would be Anthony Davis's team. Everything would run through him. And that hasn't happened. LeBron is 38 years old, and he's going to have to be the number one guy yet again. So, there's just so many things with Anthony Davis where you just question, could you be healthier? Could you be doing more to set yourself up to be healthy during the season? When you talk about guys being in shape, that's where injuries come in, man. If you're getting injured on a repeated basis, what are you doing to prepare? How are you ramping up your body? How are you getting in a situation where you can at least try to get to 65 games even?
Well, right? I mean, you could bring up if you're talking about building around Anthony Davis, which, wow, interesting words there. I would ask you this. Anthony Davis, the first 6 years of his career, that was prime Anthony Davis. He was the most available he's ever been in New Orleans. What happened? The playoffs twice. Now, you could blame the Pelicans, but that's building around Anthony Davis in his prime. So you're telling me building around Anthony Davis at 32 will be better? That's a tough pill for me to swallow. At 60 million, at 55, 60 million, with his availability, Sean, it's a risk. But I think if we're talking probabilities, there's a high chance of a probability that we'll look back at this in a couple of years and be like, yeah, hey, you had to. I mean, the Lakers were run as a family, and they feel it's the relationship between Anthony Davis and ownership and LeBron. They won a championship with Anthony Davis. He had that bubble. How he played was unbelievable. They probably still hold on to that.
And even last year when he was healthy, there were just points where he was dominating the game.
Yep,
he has that in him. But it was quite literally a joke this past postseason. That I think I even made this joke on the podcast where Anthony Davis went for 30 plus in a game in the playoffs. I bet the under the next night because he quite literally would alternate between playing awesome and playing like ass. And that's the thing, with Anthony Davis is where's the consistency? Where's the availability? When you're a talent to that level, you're going to be held to a higher standard. I mean, Anthony Davis, you could make the argument is one of the most talented players to ever enter the league with the skill set that he has, with his wingspan, with his a guy who is literally a guard his freshman year and then grew a foot.
Right.
Like, for all intents and purposes, this should be Wemby on crack.
Yeah. And that's the thing with Anthony Davis. I always thought that what was missing with Anthony Davis was his mentality. Like physically, he has everything. 6'11", well over 7 foot wingspan. Like Sean said, he's basically Victor Wembanyama with weight. Like that's what he was, and he showed throughout his career. But again, when he's not available, or there'll be days, you call him alternate day to Davis, because there'd be days where the man would have 30 and 20. And then the next day would have 13 and 9. It's like, what the hell? And that's why when you have a guy like LeBron, he kind of gets taken for granted for, because he's always consistent. You can't build around Anthony Davis. You got to bring in somebody else that can be consistent with Anthony Davis. If you're building around Anthony Davis and you got Austin Reeves, good freaking luck. Like, you're screwed.
Well, and again, I think the Lakers, what they would tell you is once they actually have to start making moves, I think they would say that, the Lakers are always a free agent destination. And if stars do become available and want to be moved, I do think that it is a tantalizing thing to if you get the opportunity to be the number 1 or number 2 guy for the Los Angeles Lakers to go alongside I think if you are a player that's in a situation that you're not too thrilled with, I don't think it's a pretty bad one to be eyeballing over the next few years. But on the flip side, they made that same bet once Kobe left.
Right.
And how'd that work out? They didn't get a guy until LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's going to be very interesting to see how they move going forward. But I mean, this contract was looming. I was interested to see, because quite frankly, I was waiting to hear some crazy stuff like Anthony Davis getting like a 4 or 5 year extension. So it's interesting to me that, that 3 was the max amount of years that he could get,
Hey, I'll tell you what, though, you talk about, attracting star players. If you're handing out cheddar like that, you can call my phone anytime. If I'm a free agent, or I'm a player looking to get traded to be extended, I'm eating over there in LA. I'll tell you that. If I'm an all NBA player, I'm getting paid.
Can we talk about just how nuts Cade Cunningham's first big contract is probably going to be?
Oh my God.
We just saw the extension that Tyrese Halliburton got. I would expect that's going to be the extension that Cade gets, because he'll deserve it, assuming he stays healthy. I think he's going to play that well. But I mean, we're talking about in the next couple of years, they're projecting with the salary cap, if it keeps moving the way it does. We just saw Jaylen Brown become the first $300 million player. In the next couple of years, we're going to see Luka Doncic become the first $400 million player. There's a legitimate chance Cade Cunningham's the second, third, or fourth. He could legitimately be making a $400 million contract by the time he's 26, 27 years old.
So exciting.
Yeah. The only question he has to answer is availability. If he's healthy, Sean, he's getting 400 millions. I mean, he's getting 400 million.
Yeah.
And the 3 guys that the Pistons are eyeballing right now that you're going to have to, get, obviously Jaden's in a rook now second year, but as the time moves on, Cade, Ivy, Duren, and Asar. And everybody else, you just kind of figure out. I mean, Isaiah Stewart's contract isn't that bad. I know people freaked out about it.
It's mid-level. It is quite literally the mid-level.
They'll be all right. But yeah, Cade's going to get that cheddar. He will. And he deserves it. He does.
Yeah.
That guy's a franchise player. You pay more for just what you do on the court. It's what you do off the court. He's a good representation of this organization. He is.
Well, and I think too, I think if you see anything, the things that Adam Silver's been trying to do to incentivize stars to stay with their teams, it's working.
Mm-hmm.
If you look at, the amount of parity over the course of years, the lack of guys who are becoming available in free agency, and the amount of people who are recognizing the value of building something long-term, of being with an organization. I mean, especially Cade too, a guy who seems as married to his organization as anybody in the league. I mean, especially the commitments they've made of, bringing in, Monty Williams and drafting the guys that they have. I think, it is especially important to maximize your window. And make sure that, you make your star talent like happy, but like at the same light, like I think it's, there are a lot of things heading Detroit's way, to say that Cade could be in Detroit for a very long time. I think especially with how he's looking over the course of the next couple, like over the last few days, I think people are finally realizing, oh yeah, no, this is like one of the up and coming players in the league. Like, I think people are recognizing finally that he's going to be a star. Which, by the way, I thought that there was this really weird narrative around Cade following these USA Select practices, because there were the reports of there was the article that came out of why Cade Cunningham isn't playing with Team USA, load management. And it's like, okay, if we're trying to make some form of narrative of criticizing why he's not playing with Team USA, like, full freaking stop, please. Like, first of all, this is a World Cup and not even Olympic level basketball. Second of all, this is a guy who only played 12 games in his last season. And as talented as he is, and as much as we believe he's going to be a guy, and as much as we talk about that, like, he has a chance to make a lot of money, that ain't sealed until you put pen to paper. And that doesn't happen unless Cade can go out and have a stellar season this year. And so, quite frankly, when you are making decisions, not just for yourself, but for your family, for your daughter, for your future generations to come, I mean, guys, Cade has the chance to set himself up for generational wealth. Why risk it for a World Cup appearance in 2023? With all due respect.
Yeah, and let's be real here. I think we can agree that Team USA probably needs Cade more than Cade needs Team USA. So I mean, it it is what it is. Right. He'll be fine regardless. And I actually respect that. It's his decision to not play. I mean, I respect it.
Yeah, I thought it was a mature decision.
Yeah,
and, again, Troy, I know people want to see him play, and I mean, we would love to see him play too. I was championing on this podcast how awesome it would be to see him. To see him playing out there. But, at the same time, you have to do what's best for the long-term, care of the player. And there is, an importance to be able to just ramp up naturally for the season and not go in with significant minutes already on your legs.
Right. Absolutely. And sometimes you got to live for yourself, because you're the only one that has to live with yourself. And I think that's just something you have to do sometimes in the NBA, especially when there's so much pressure on you, but also, you want to make sure that you are in the right physical fatigue, the right mental fatigue to succeed. And I think more reps in the gym and rest will be more beneficial than playing Team USA basketball, as much as the fans would love to see. You're right, Sean. He has to look out for himself.
Yep, absolutely. And I mean, even if you look at Team USA as well, like the way this roster is constructed, every single player on Team USA except Josh Hart is just signed an extension or is in the first or second year of a long-term deal. Like, even Walker Kessler and Paulo Banchero, those guys are are at the beginning of their rookie contracts. So if something were to happen, it's not like that's a massive end of the world for him. But like for Cade, your first big contract, which is arguably like the most important contract of an NBA player's career, because to get that first guaranteed big sum of and also to secure no matter what happens for the rest of his career, to know that Cade will be able to have generational wealth and set up his family for years to come. Like, that's the stuff that has to matter first. I know we talk hoops a lot. I know we love basketball, and I know we want to see these guys go out and thrive, but like, ultimately, these are people too. And, especially over the last couple of years, I've become way more pro players getting their bags, because if you think about it, yes, players, sport, like athletes probably get paid too much, but at the same light, would you rather that money be in the hands of the owners or in the hands of the players?
Players every day of the week.
Yeah.
I'm a fan of the game, but I'm also a fan of the game. I'm a
And
fan
who's
of
out
these
there
guys
playing?
getting paid, man.
Is the owners playing? I remember there's that funny line in Last Dance when Michael Jordan asked Krause, "Want to join layup lines today?" Right? I mean,
You would never.
It's not going to happen, right?
Never.
And Michael Jordan made a very good point in that doc, Last Dance, of saying the owners maybe get the team together, but they're not the ones out there playing and winning. It's
Right. Organizations don't win championships. Players do.
Yeah.
Yep. And I mean, organizations absolutely, like, you know, you need to build a program. You got to have, you know, some, you know, but like, again, like it's just, you know, it's just the way it is. The business is there. But again, I mean, the fact that, you know, even though he wasn't on the big squad, I think Team USA Select, that ability to ramp up and to showcase what he can do against those guys. I mean, again, I think that it's just the perfect catalyst for him to come out and have like a breakout year. I really do. And I think, you know, if anything, guys, if I had to put in one word how I felt over the weekend, it wasn't surprised. It wasn't, you know, it wasn't joyful. Like, I mean, don't get me wrong. There was definitely joy. If I had to use one word, guys, it would be vindication, because it is literally everything that we've said this guy is for months is exactly who we saw on that footage. In the bets that we made, that injury and everything that, you know, we were told that injury was not going to affect him. We have that confirmation now.
Mm-hmm.
Exciting stuff.
Yeah, I know what I see with my eyeballs. You know, everything's great. Stats are great, but eyeballs, sometimes you got to take that into consideration. My eyeballs, you know, we enjoy Cade. The guy's he's a stud. He really is.
Yeah, 100%. Again, you know, I'm just excited for, you know, just all the different things. I'm just excited for some basketball to be back.
Oh, me too.
Especially, you know, talking about the fact that, you know, coming up, you know, especially in the next week or so, we're going to have hoops to watch. We're going to have things to discuss. The next few weeks, you know, is going to be a lot of fun with the World Cup. I think, you know, especially, you know, with the amount of talent we have around the world, like the state of international basketball is way better than it's ever been. And I think we're just going to see, you know, I think we're going to see a lot of really good hoops to come up. So we're definitely going to be covering all of it. So be sure that you're subscribed to the channel. Hit that like button if you enjoyed this pod. Also, be sure you're following my guys on social media so you're not missing anything they're doing. You can follow my guys on X at Troy Sergey 44. You can follow my boy Jeff on X at Jeff Iafrady. I hate saying X with all my heart.
It's so stupid. It sounds like a porno, but keep going.
It is like they took one of the most recognizable brands in the entire world and replaced it with X.
Hey, I got trivia for you. Do we know what the bird's name was for the original Twitter logo?
Tweety?
No, Larry.
Larry.
Yeah, I'm serious. Look it up. Look it up, boys. Larry Bird.
Was it really named Larry Bird?
Yeah.
I'm going to be honest. I was going to believe Tweety.
Yeah.
Until I heard Larry Bird.
Yep. Yep. Son of a gun. Yeah. It is Larry.
Right.
It is Larry Bird.
Good. That's a good way to close it out.
Yeah. According to a tweet by co-founder Biz Stone, it is called Larry the Bird as a tribute to NBA player Larry Bird, who played for the Boston Celtics, the co-founder's home state.
There we go.
Now they have an X contributed to. I'm going to go out on a limb and say the new logo is not a tribute to Larry Bird. I'm just going out on a limb on that one.
Bold prediction, accusation, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, but hey, what do I know?
But maybe I'm just dumb.
This has been From Half Court. Thank you so much for listening. We'll catch you guys next time from Half Court. Be sure you're subscribed.